All right. Hello, everyone. I think I'm live. I believe I'm live. This is how all of these streams start because I'm incompetent. But welcome. I am officially done with my second year of law school. And today we got some Ice and Fire adaptation news. And based on this news, it seems like we're really not going to have much going forward. So I figured it'd be good to talk about what we have, speculate on what exactly might be going on there with Dunk and Egg, because that was the main portion of today's news. Let me know in the chat, everything okay? Can you hear me? Can you see everything okay? How are you doing today? I would love to hear. Hopefully, everybody's doing well. We did get some rather disappointing news, though. So, this news came in the form of a Variety article that was essentially published this morning during an HBO panel where everybody thought we were going to get a Dunk and Egg trailer. While it seems like there was a trailer that was shown, I've seen a couple people reference it on Twitter. It has not been shown to us publicly. With that said, if I jinx it and it ends up coming out during this stream, let me know in the chat. That would be so funny. Haha, unless... Come on, HBO, or HBO Max, I guess. That was another part of it. They rebranded things. I'll get to that later on in the stream. But it was announced via this article that A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is shifting to 2026 for a release. So to read through this, no official premiere date was ever set. They were initially going to air by the end of 2025. And what this article doesn't say is that initially the air date for Dunk and Egg was supposed to be like early 2025. The earliest dates we have were like spring, so theoretically like March, April, almost the time slot that The Last of Us is currently occupying. But rather than that, we have it pushed further to 2026. So the news was today to this presentation to advertisers in New York City. As I've said, there was some sort of trailer there, but we haven't seen it. An interesting thing that I've seen said about this trailer is that I've heard people reference it as having a fairly comedic tone, which I think is great considering this story is much lighter than typical A Song of Ice and Fire stuff. And we do have a synopsis. So no premiere window, so it's just 2026. We do hear from other people afterwards. I believe somebody high up at HBO later said it would be winter 2026, so very early on in the year. Ideally, I think probably filling the White Lotus time slot from this year, albeit that would be, I think, a few fewer episodes than that was. But the synopsis we have is this. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is adapted from George R.R. Martin's novella The Hedge Knight, and we follow the exploits of Sir Duncan the Tall, Peter Claffey, and his young squire Egg, Dexter Sol Ansel, roughly 100 years before Game of Thrones, and 100 years after House of the Dragon. Dunk and Egg's journey will take them to a competition in which they encounter several members of the Targaryen dynasty, including Prince Aerion Targaryen, Finn Bennett, Prince Baelor Targaryen, Bertie Cavil, and Prince Maekar Targaryen. Maekar? I don't know. I always mispronounce that one. Sam Spruill. I am great at pronunciation, guys. Along with another knight known as the Laughing Storm, Sir Lionel Baratheon, and a puppeteer named Tanzel. So this seems interesting. This synopsis that we have, given the ordering of individuals. Dunk and Egg are obviously first. They're our main characters. But Aerion being the first character listed here makes me think maybe he gets a bit more focus than he does in the text. He is kind of the main antagonist of this story, which doesn't super have an antagonist or that heavy of a plot, but overall him being higher up does say maybe we get a bit more dimension to his story, especially him being listed before Baelor, who I definitely think has a bigger role in the books. Additionally, Sir Lionel Baratheon seems to be beefed up a little bit, which is good, given that the Baratheons are great, and I'm more excited. Logline. I don't quite know what a logline is. The memory of the last dragon has not yet passed from living memory. Great destinies, powerful foes, and dangerous exploits all await these improbable and incomparable friends. So that's kind of interesting. I'm sorry for all the ads, by the way. Variety is loaded with these. But that is interesting given that they are tying it to dragons and kind of making it seem maybe a bit more epic than the original story would seem. Also, hey, Fantasy Haven. Wins for Dinner 2026 hype. I'll get into the Year of Westeros idea later Because I do have, not to spoil my own stream a little bit, a little conspiracy board of potential reasons as to why this was delayed that I have handcrafted for your enjoyment. But first I want to talk about kind of the trajectory that this show has had. It's all done filming. It was filmed last summer, as we know from a number of sources, both directly within the production of this show itself and from Martin's own blog post. Specifically, this one coming from October of last year details his trip to the set. He posted a bunch of pictures here. It looks pretty nice. It looks like it'll be a very authentic tourney set. He took some pictures with the cast, including Sir Duncan himself. And Tansel Too Tall, who is taller than Martin, so that's good casting there. We got the Fossaways here too, but it is worth noting that at this stage, which was October of last year, less than a year ago, if I can do my math right, that's like 7 months ago, it didn't even have a name. To quote from this blog post, Attorney Ashford, "Yes, I'm talking about the newest Game of Thrones spin-off show. It's an adaptation of The Hedge Knight, the first of my Duncan Egg stories. There will be 2 more after that, The Sworn Sword, and The Mystery Knight. They've all been collected in a book, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. That's probably going to be the title of the show as well, unless we go with The Hedge Knight. That's still under discussion. Filming wrapped not long ago, and Ira Parker and his team are now in post, looking to debut sometime next year. Spring, I'm hoping, but that's just a guess. No date has been set yet. We then get a bunch of stuff on not only the history of The Hedge Knight as a little novella, we have a little bit on the actual production of this show in and of itself, and a Wynn's mention. Isn't that nice? We actually get to go through kind of his journey there. And then, January of this year, 3 months after that blog post, we do hear about Dunk and Egg once again. So here the name seems to have solidified, but there is a fairly notable change between January, which is now less than 4 months ago, and now. So, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, for starts. It's done. That's important. I will be addressing that in my conspiracy web. It's done. The filming is done, and this makes it sound like the post-production is, if not complete, very close to complete regardless. Ira and his team wrapped the first season months ago and moved right on to post-production. I've seen all 6 episodes now, the last 2 in rough cuts admittedly, which is pretty notable. The last 2 being in rough cuts implies that the first 4 have effectively gone gold. I don't know if that's the correct term for the TV industry. I know it is for video games, but essentially the first 4 episodes, 2/3 of the season, seems like it's done. Dunk and Egg have always been favorites of mine, and the actors are incredible. Whereas the cast is terrific. Wait until you meet the Laughing Storm and Tansel Too Tall. Seems like they'll be big characters in the show, as previously mentioned. But it is worth noting that, let me see. Yeah, the series will make its debut later this year, I'm now told. How late? I could not say. Maybe in the fall. Oh, thank you for the super chat. That is another thing you guys can do if you'd like to say anything about Dunk and Egg or Ice and Fire generally from a channel of Ice and Fire. Hey Quinn, hope you're doing well. This delay absolutely sucks. I am craving for Maekar and Aerion, or Maekar. That's probably the Targaryen name I'm the worst at pronouncing. I am too. I don't know. It's strange, and it's weird to have another year with no Westeros stuff, but we will press on. It's interesting. Hopefully we have a trailer before long, but it is quite interesting, and it will factor into my conspiracy web here, that Martin, as of 4 months ago, still thinks it's coming out this year. That seems like a very executive-level decision. And it is worth noting that before all of these posts, where Martin is talking very, very, very positively about Dunk and Egg, how much he loves both the original story and this adaptation, what it's become, I do think that there is some issue there that could be stemming from something else that you may have observed in my tabs here. That being the Beware the Butterflies post. Martin, for those who don't know, let me see if I can actually find the post itself. I think, for those who didn't get to read it, yes, we have a tweet here. Thank you to Brian for archiving this. Also, my video archived it, but I'm not going to pull up my own video. I'm not an egomaniac. So, back in July, I promised all the further thoughts on Blood and Cheese. This is Martin's vast criticism of House of the Dragon Season 2, what it became, and his issues with the ways in which it was adapted and what was changed from the source material. This coming in September is, I think, a necessary piece of maybe information to have when looking at my grand conspiracy board here. So I've outlined a bunch of reasons. It could be all of these reasons. It could be none of these reasons as to why this show was delayed. But let's start at the top here with one that I think is fairly likely. That being HBO Max branding weirdness. For those who don't know, HBO Max became Max, which is stupid. It's a really bad name. And they seem to have realized that because after about 2 years, they have changed it back. We are back to calling it Max. And it seems as though there are some, I don't know, IP concerns here, or maybe it's changing how streaming is happening around the world. I saw some talk on Twitter as to maybe HBO Max is going to be able to be streamed internationally, like in the UK, and releasing Dunk and Egg at this point in early 2026, after the rebrand is fully gone into effect, will allow them to stream it on their own platform in places like the UK, rather than something like, what is it, like Sky TV or something? Fantasy Haven, if you're still in the chat, put down your Nandos and let me know where this happens in the UK and if this would end up impacting it. But continuing, another issue I've seen raised a lot on Twitter specifically is the idea of reshoots happening. We're living in an age of post-Marvel, MCU, whatever here happening, given the fact that, I mean, all of their movies get reshot 50 billion times, and it very rarely ends up working and helping the final product. In this instance, it's unclear whether or not there are going to be reshoots. We've heard no word of any reshoots in terms of like actual production notes or any like set bookings or anything from actors or whatnot. And the fact that Martin has said that he's seen 4 of the episodes in Final Cut does speak to the idea that these episodes are, if not done, very, very close to done. Breaking from Fantasy Haven in chat, let's see. Yeah, Sky TV has basically been blocking HBO from airing in the UK. We can only watch HBO shows via Sky or Now TV. Gotcha. So maybe that changes things with the HBO Max consideration, but we will have to see on that front. In terms of reshoots, that could be changing some things like plot-wise, but also I don't really know what they'd change. It's such a simple story, and there really isn't a ton there to begin with. Stretching it to 6 episodes does sound like a lot already, which is, I don't know. There was a graphic novel adaptation of the Dunk and Egg stories, The Hedge Knight, The Sworn Sword, which I need to get better at saying before that season comes out, and The Mystery Knight. And those graphic novel adaptations are each broken into 6 individual issues. So if those issues are roughly followed in terms of the episode structure, there could be a good idea there. But I don't know, stretching a comic issue to an entire episode, depending on the issue, could be potentially problematic. With that said, I could see some elements being changed for one reason down here, which I'll address now because it's probably my vaguest on the board. These 2 little emoji, or I guess 3 if those are 2 different ones, I think HBO is a little bit worried that it's going to flop because it's not Game of Thrones. It's so different from the epic scope and scale of House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones, these grand dramas that are unfolding on a continental stage. This is a very small story about 2 kids at a tournament. It's pretty great, and it's pretty chill. It's very, very different from the vibe that HBO typically goes for with these massive blockbuster releases that they tend to have. I could see it taking the White Lotus time slot because I think that of all of like the HBO shows ongoing right now, it's not dissimilar to it's not the White Lotus. The White Lotus is a very different beast from what I assume Dunk and Egg to be, but in terms of like scale of plot and tone, it's just an interpersonal drama. There aren't like massive bombastic stakes or anything. They do keep referencing, there will be Targaryen princes you'll get to see, and that that one thing mentioned, when the dragons have not faded from living memory. That does make me think, at one point in both the book and the graphic novel adaptation, we see Dunk think back to a story that his mentor, Arlen, told him about seeing the last dragon, this sickly green thing. I could see that being shown in some way or another. That might be the only instance of the show really needing CGI, unless they make Dunk do like 20 flips during the trial of the seven, which I won't spoil. But I do think that that is something worth noting. And I also think that what else could even need CGI at this point? Like, I don't know, the puppets I think we've heard are practical effects. I think Martin has referenced those as being very cool, but I think that HBO is overall worried that this being so different from the rest of the Westeros world, they're trying to crowd it in with House of the Dragon in order to prevent interest being lost in Westeros, as people could be worried that, or at least people, executives at HBO, so not people, might be worried that people will fall off of Westeros entirely if we combine the lackluster end of House of the Dragon Season 2, which was their fault, with this fairly chill show. And that ties into another thought on the conspiracy board I've got here, which is House of the Dragon synergy, which is, we love business buzzwords in this household. I think that they could be looking at the idea that, hey, we already supposedly have House of the Dragon coming out in 2026. Allowing Dunk and Egg to lapse into this year as well could, A, buy us more time to work on House of the Dragon. Because House of the Dragon is this just massive show in terms of scope, in terms of CGI, in terms of actors, in terms of everything. They are currently in the thralls of filming at present. They are deep in it. They are not going to be done, I think, if what I've heard is correct, until early fall, I think. So that gives them, assuming the summer of 2025 original release date was held, less than a year to do After Effects, post-production, all of this stuff that is way over my head. And I don't really think that's enough time to get everything done that they would need to get everything looking like it should, to continue on the quality from the past two seasons, at least in terms of the CGI. This could buy House of the Dragon a bit more time if we have a Westeros show in the early winter, in like January, and then we start House of the Dragon again in, I don't know, October? I think that would be probably reasonable, right? First season of House of the Dragon started in like August, I think. Yeah, because the video that like started this channel effectively, I mean the first video that did like super duper well, was about season 1 episode 7 of House of the Dragon. And I remember that it was in October because it was my first day of student teaching, and I just happened to look down at my phone at one point between class periods, and I saw that, oh, this video I made has 100,000 views. What the hell is happening? So maybe shifting slightly back from there could end up working. It is also worth noting that there's a non-zero chance that this show being pushed into 2026 could end up pushing House of the Dragon into 2027. They have not said anything to that effect yet, but they also have not said anything to the effect of we are definitely keeping House of the Dragon in 2026. I think it's a very strong possibility that ends up getting bumped back, maybe even to like spring of 27, which isn't a real year, and I shouldn't have to think about this. House of the Dragon Season 3 will likely come out after I've graduated law school, which is insane. But this does open up the possibility of a year of Westeros in the vein of the year of Luigi. And what's that in there? I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. I don't know if it's a big year where a lot of things are coming out. I don't know what might happen. We'll see. No, I don't think so. We have no positive signs on the Winds of Winter recently. Martin has been largely MIA, so we shall see. But on that front, I do think that one of very few silver linings of this delay is that Martin will not be distracted by Season 2 of House of the Dragon for at least a little... Not House of the Dragon. That already aired. Season 2 of Dunk and Egg for at least a little while longer, which I think is good and will hopefully allow him to focus a little more on writing if that's what he chooses to do. I've seen people speculate, oh, this could allow him to sneak in an extra Dunk and Egg story, get that out before Season 4 comes out. I don't know. I think that's the thing. If another Westeros book that isn't The Winds of Winter comes out before The Winds of Winter, I think that might be the end of my hope for the book, at least being published in any point fully. Given the fact that I think that, I don't know, if things are able to reshuffle priorities that much, we already had Fire and Blood, which was intended to come out after The Winds of Winter come out before it. I don't know. That would just cause me to lose a last little bit of hope. Fantasy Haven is correct that Night of the Seven Kingdoms, House of the Dragon, and Winds are all releasing in 2026. A lot of familiar faces in the chat. Hello, everyone. Good to see, folks. I'm excited to hear other people's opinions here. I'm not even halfway through this conspiracy web here, because I think the biggest conspiracy worry in my head is this one right up here. I think that there is a non-zero chance that the Butterfly post might have pissed off HBO to a certain degree. The only reason I say this is Martin has very publicly been heralding the Night of the Seven Kingdoms as this masterful adaptation, everything that an adaptation of his work should be, and the fact that it's getting delayed again, seemingly without his knowledge, as he didn't know as of 4 months ago, though I'm sure he knew before we did. It's remarkable, and I hope that's not what's happening, but we'll see. There is obviously some animosity there. It's unclear what the current state of the relationship between George Martin and HBO is, but given that blog post and the fact that that blog post actively spoiled Condal's plans for season 3, there could be maybe some bad blood there, which I hope is not the case. We will see. Wins or GTA 6 first? Let's see. That's a good question. GTA 6 just got delayed. I know that because my roommates and I were talking about whether or not we'd be able to play it before we graduate law school, and the answer to that is now a no. But I don't know. I could not see Wins releasing before GTA 6. Mostly because, I don't know. So, I mean, technically it could, in terms of, like, Martin's turnarounds between book announcements and releases generally aren't all that long. His time between the announcement of A Dance with Dragons completion, which was a week after the premiere of Game of Thrones, to its eventual publication was, I think it was either 3 months or 5 months. I think it was 3 months. It was it was 5 months. It was March to July. March 3rd to July 12th. That's off the dome. If it's correct, I'm a genius. But no, I think that theoretically it could, like if he announces it anytime before, like, what would that be, January of 2026? It could come out before then, but I see no evidence that he will announce it before then. Given his radio silence on his blog recently, I think we're hoping he's cooking right now, given the fact that it has been so quiet, but we will see if that ends up being the case. I wish A Song of Ice and Fire was written in the 80s. Yeah, that'd be interesting. I wonder what would change there with, like, Martin's writing style being a bit younger. I have been reading Fever Dream recently for a bit of a weird Song of Ice and Fire analysis video I have in the pipeline. And it's pretty good. It's a bit messier than Ice and Fire, and there are some things I'd like to see maybe expanded on a bit, but overall, yeah. The other reason I had here, which is, it's also worth noting, there was a little graphic that was shown alongside, like, the announcement of, it's in 2026, sorry, oops, and I do quite like it. It is, I feel like the font is slightly different from the Game of Thrones font. This has been Font Watch, and I do enjoy it. The tree is obviously harkening back to Sir Duncan the Tall's sigil. It's weird that there isn't, like, a star behind it, but it is pretty cool, and it is nice to see some rather distinctive branding, as it was a little concerning in terms of just hearing nothing about Duncan Egg. I will say, I did kind of see this coming. There was a YouTube short that I decided not to air because I thought it would be maybe a little bit in poor taste, but I made a YouTube short essentially saying, hey, it's weird that this is going on, because for those of you who aren't maybe as chronically looped in as I am, there was this trailer that aired following the last episode of whatever the last HBO show was, showing like a sizzle reel of all of the upcoming HBO shows in 2025, at least recently in 2025. And the weird thing was, when we saw this sizzle reel both last year in August after House of the Dragon, and last year in December after whatever show was after House of the Dragon, Dunk and Egg was on the slate of shows, and this little snippet of preview was coming in, and we could see it on the screen, and it was great. And we saw, like, Dunk unsheathing his sword. Are you Sir I'm Sir Duncan the Tall, or something. That's not my best Irish accent. I'm just talking quickly here. But regardless of that, It was removed. That Dunk and Egg segment was removed from the sizzle reel of upcoming HBO 2025 shows after, I believe it was The White Lotus. And I thought that was weird because it was supposed to be quite soon. Dunk and Egg's original slated date was this summer. My thought was it was going to start around the same time as House of the Dragon had, or a little bit later, that being June it started. I do think this year I'm probably going to do a season 2 retrospective video, which should be cool. Season 2 of House of the Dragon, because I do think there's a lot to analyze there. The Grease Goblins asks, Quinn in chat, do you think the show will continue to build on the Prince of Those Promised stuff from House of the Dragon? Okay. Hot take. Okay. I don't mind the Prince of Those Promised, Aegon's Dagger, Aegon's Prophecy stuff from House of the Dragon. I think it sounds like it came from Martin. I think it fits very well with the world as it currently exists in its current state. But I really, really, really do not hope it is, or I really hope it is not in A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, because that is not what A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is about. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. It's about Sir Duncan the Tall. It's not about the grand designs of the Targaryen dynasty. There is that nice little wrinkle that he happens to be traveling with this kid who might have a connection there. No spoilers, obviously. But it is just so disconnected from the world of all of these super interconnected politics. And let me get on my soapbox here for a second. That's a large reason as to why The Mystery Knight is my least favorite Dunk and Egg story. I feel like it kind of loses the plot in the fact that it gets too much of the plot. Dunk and Egg, in my view, is something that is very low stakes, very low to the ground, very grounded. I really enjoy that it is just a little fun adventure between this knight and his squire, and I'm not huge on these massive continent-spanning politics being inserted into this. That I know that sounds like certain other criticisms of certain other shows, but I don't like the larger Westerosi politics being inserted into this very small story. That's why I think The Sworn Sword is so good when other people really don't really rate it that much. I think it is very much a good extension of the original. Fantasy Haven saying Mystery Knight is peak. I still love The Mystery Knight. It's just my least favorite of the Dunk and Egg stories because I don't think it really fits in as a Dunk and Egg story. I think it's like maybe a little Blackfire Rebellion novella that could have maybe been something else. Sorry, taking a drink of my water because I've been talking for 28 minutes straight. Oh boy. But yeah, I think these are a number of fairly... Oh, there's another reason I hadn't gotten to yet, which is that HBO hates me specifically. As long as these shows do not come out when I'm studying for the bar in a year's time, we're going to be fine, HBO. If not, we're going to have a problem. Keep medieval politics out of my shows. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting case because I do think there's a lot going on here, and it's obviously so much behind the scenes. Yeah, I'm not sure. Every live streamer is obligated to mention they're drinking water. I am. Hydration is important, people. But I was re-listening to Dunk and Egg recently, and I did kind of see the vision of it being just 6 episodes, given the fact that I do think that you conceivably could make this into a 6-episode story. I think there are ways in which the story could be expanded in a satisfying way, but I don't think that necessarily comes with massive expansions of the world and the characters, and specifically drawing attention to the Targaryens. Thank you for the super chat from Bane's Basement. Surprised you actually dropped the dance video. I was expecting you to post, unfortunately, I did not meet my editor's deadline. I'm still actively working on the Quinns of Quinter. Thank you. I really enjoyed making that A Dance with Dragons video. For those who might not know, that is my last video, which was ranking every chapter in A Dance with Dragons, which is now on my channel. It's like an hour and a half long. It took a billion years to come out. But I really enjoyed it, and I hope that you guys did. I am planning on continuing the series, hopefully doing one for Feast, so don't worry, that will become my Quinns of Quinter. But also, it's 46 chapters as compared to Dance's 74, so definitely better off and an easier ranking there. But with that said, A Storm of Swords hits the 80s, and that would be insane. Because I will say, I think A Storm of Swords is probably the book I have the hottest chapter takes on, in that there are some chapters in Storm that I really do not like. I think A Storm of Swords has my least favorite chapter in the entire series, even more so than The Windblown, which is saying something, given my thoughts on The Windblown. Yeah, Feast is going to be Cersei 1 through 10 in the top 10. I don't know. There's also, like, the Kingsmoot is pretty great. I really like both of Ariane's chapters in A Feast for Crows. That is the thing, just to lift the curtain a little bit on some upcoming stuff. I'm currently scripting 2 videos, one of which is a kind of literary character analysis of one specific individual on a very weird scale, in that it's a strange idea that you can see me come to in real time on my first nickname stream with Fantasy Haven. And then the other one is I'm doing an analysis of another family in Ice and Fire in the vein of my Greyjoy trauma analysis from like 8 or so months ago. So I really like that video. I think there's another family that's along similar lines. The Windblown is the best. I don't know what you're talking about. Arya 3, I do not remember what Arya 3 is, being the worst of Storm. It is not Arya 3 what I'm talking about. Frankly, I don't remember the number of the chapter I'm talking about, but I know what happens in it. But yeah, now let's see. Are you offering Romantic, A Song of Ice and Fire chapter readings? Not yet. We'll see. That might be, if no Westeros news goes on for long enough, then maybe we'll get there. But yeah, no, I was also surprised that the announcement of Duncan Egg's delay did not come with any further announcement from Martin. That was, I mean, in the past when HBO's made announcements like about House of the Dragon, he has done that and been kind of boosting that message. There was a message on Westeros.org, if I could type correctly, which was interesting. Let's see. Yeah, Night of the Seven Kingdoms bumped to early 2026. Despite initial aims to get it out this year, it seems like a Night of the Seven Kingdoms ultimately shifted entirely out of 2025 and will now be an early 2026 release, according to a first-look trailer for the show revealed to press and industry professionals at WBD up front. Whether that trailer will be released today or in the future, we do not know. So unclear if the folks even here have any idea. Correct me if I'm wrong, Westeros.org is run by Martin's assistants, Elio and Linda, so unclear if Martin maybe was blindsided by this. I'm not quite sure. Oh, what were my other thoughts? I tweeted things, didn't I? I do tweet occasionally. I just thought this was funny that the Night of the Seven Kingdoms releasing in early 2026 means that House of the Dragon Season 3 likely won't release until the end of the same year. So I'm probably going to have a law degree and a undergraduate degree by the time there is another season of House of the Dragon, which is just absolutely nuts. Someone asked, will there be smut in the Winds of Winter? Of course, we need more Sam experiences in that realm, which we've already had plenty of in A Feast for Crows. That is another thing. If I'm ranking A Feast for Crows, I need to be ready to rank Sam quite low for the entire book. I am not a huge fan. Yeah, I think Sam's arc in Feast is one of my least favorite in the entire series. It just doesn't feel super necessary for the entire thing. Like, it's only 5 chapters, but I feel like you could have easily cut 2 of those chapters, and it was just kind of included because he wanted Feast to be a full book, which is understandable on the broad strokes. I am still very excited for Duncan Egg, but I don't know. The fact that HBO has pushed it does worry me, and the fact that, like, we are talking about Season 2, Season 3. This is something that us as fans have been discussing a lot. Martin has been discussing it a lot, that the Season 2 writer's room is apparently meeting, but Season 2 of House of the Dragon, I don't believe has been greenlit. I don't think we have official confirmation from HBO that there will be a Season 2 of House of the Dragon, which isn't great. I feel like that does indicate that maybe they are kind of hedging their bets here. Not only are they not confident in this show because it is kind of a smaller scale than House of the Dragon, they are moving it into a substantially less lucrative time of the year, so it might get a slightly lower audience. So overall, I don't know. I'm a little concerned that this show is kind of not being set up to fail, but more that HBO doesn't really care if it succeeds or fails, and maybe they aren't fully intending on releasing it. They're gonna release it, renewing it. That was the word I was questing for. But it will be interesting to see. The people who have seen this trailer say that it seems kind of comedy-ish, and I do note on here with award eligibility that could be a factor. The Emmys are going to be absolutely stacked this year in, I think, every category. We have a season of The Bear coming out in a few weeks here, I think. In addition to, I almost said Succession, Severance, which is obviously going to sweep everything. I think The Pit was also great. But yeah, no, I think that delaying A Night of the Seven Kingdoms could allow it to maybe be eligible for longer or in a window that allows it to maybe compete a little bit better. And I've even seen people speculate that, oh, maybe it's going to be competing in the comedy category. I don't know. For those who don't know, those categories are dictated by how long the episodes are, not necessarily the genre or tone of the show. So half-an-hour episodes, it's a comedy. Hour episodes, it's a drama. And I don't know how long the episodes are going to be of Night of the Seven Kingdoms. We really have no indication on that. And it is interesting to see such a big shift from what the initial plans were, because Martin, and I don't know if it was Martin or if it was HBO, but the plan always seemed to be to rotate between, we'll have a season of the Night of the Seven Kingdoms and a season of House of the Dragon, and we'll rotate back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until time immemorial. So we'll have a Westeros show coming out every single year. But now we'll have 2 in 1 year, and this year will be completely blank, and assumedly 2027, that's the next year, will also be completely blank. That's another reason why I'm a little concerned as to House of the Dragon potentially being delayed. That being that, I don't know, there won't be a Westeros show in 2027, so maybe they'll want to push it back a little bit and balance the scales a little bit. Or maybe they're hoping that these two shows are going to balance each other out in the same year, and allow people to kind of get both sides of Westeros with this epic drama and this smaller scale story. With that said, I've just come to the funniest possibility, which I now kind of hope is the case. They should air back to back. I think Night of the Seven Kingdoms into House of the Dragon. They had the Goggins Fest with White Lotus into Righteous Gemstones. I think we should do that, but it's like Westeros Fest in terms of just having one show into the other. That would be really fun. I don't think it's going to be happening. That said, there are ways that this could happen good. There are ways this could happen bad. I truly hope that there isn't the rift that I am scared of between Martin and HBO. But if there is, I do hope that it is kind of helping to provide inspiration to write, as hopefully he is no longer focused as much on adaptations and has realized that the books are going to be the key to everything in this story. Yeah. I don't know. I think it is weird to not even have a trailer for a show that was supposed to come out so soon. And even now, I don't know what they're going to air over the summer. Because I know this was originally the plan. And I have to say, I'm not huge on the marketing focusing so much on House Targaryen. Given the fact that, I don't know, they're not that, I mean, they're a big part of the story. They are the kind of justiciars here. They have the court of royal authority. They are the ones who are doling out the justice and the punishment. But I don't know, the focus on the dynasty as this big selling marketing point, I don't know. It's not great. And my worry with if they are doing reshoots, and that is the reason for the delay, I worry they're going to try to spice it up and make it more overall interesting. Somebody said Peacemaker is in the summer. Peacemaker is both, I think, only a Max release, or HBO Max now. Great marketing, great job, executives. Peacemaker is both Max only, and it's not until, I think, late mid-August. So I don't think that quite, because I'm talking about what's going to come on right after The Last of Us, because I think there are 2 more weeks of Last of Us. You know, we have an entire book dedicated to this True Dynasty. Fantasy is a great point. And, like, the Aegon the Conqueror show. Oh, my God. Don't get me started on the Aegon the Conqueror show. That is, like, it's so boring. Like, what is going to happen in the Aegon the Conqueror show? He's going to conquer 7 kingdoms, and that's going to be it. He's not even going to have one of his dragons and sisters die, because that doesn't happen during the war. We're not going to see it happen. Honestly, I don't know. I think the coolest way to do an Aegon the Conqueror show, if I'm being completely honest, would be to mirror what they did with Andor Season 2, if any of you have seen it. I know it's a small underground show. Not many people have, but for those who don't know, this second season of Andor was originally supposed to be like 4 seasons, but instead of doing that, they released 12 episodes, and each block of 3 episodes, if I could speak, is like a year apart from one another. I think they could do something similar with Aegon's Conquest, maybe showing different like times in the dynasty, maybe like a bunch of like 3 episodes before the conquest, 3 episodes during the conquest, 3 in the immediate aftermath, and then 3 of like the long reign of Aegon the Dragon. That could be a cooler way to do it, because otherwise, like, it's just Aegon burning everybody, and it's just gonna be like kind of a, I don't know, CGI fest. I don't know. It's bad, and I think it's not a great idea. You know what I would want that I think would be super interesting and cool to see? Sons of the Dragon. Martin knows that's an interesting story. It was a novella before the Dance of the Dragons was a novella. That is a really interesting dynamic, but that is the thing. All of the Targaryen conflicts that we have in history, other than Robert's Rebellion, are civil wars. And given the fact that we have just been kind of inundated with the Targaryen civil war for however many years House of the Dragon is going to go on, if they keep dragging it out and pushing it back, I think that people are going to be sick of Targaryen civil wars, and understandably so. I think it very much limits the future of, if HBO wants to make it a franchise, the franchise, having it all focused on very similar conflicts. That's a big reason as to why I don't think a Blackfire Rebellion show would work. Not only do I think it's just not, I don't know, there isn't that much on that period of history, unless we, God forbid, see Blood and Fire published before the Winds of Winter, and additionally, it's just kind of a less interesting Dance of the Dragons in my eyes. Later on, the ideas of, like, the later Blackfire Rebellions could be interesting. I've always said, you know what I would rather see than Robert's Rebellion? I would rather see the War of the Ninepenny Kings. No one would watch that show, but it would be excellent because it is such an interesting time in history. It's not all of these characters that we already know. You're not kind of burdened with the prequel weight, which can be good in cases like Andor or Better Call Saul, but can also be unwieldy like the prequels. But also, it's a little further back. You give yourself more room to breathe, maybe more room to be book accurate and have some differences from the show. And you get to see all of these characters in much more interesting states, and all these much older characters who are kind of further removed from the present. You get Aerys II, you get Tywin, you get the Blackfish, you get Barristan the Bold. It would be perfect. It would be the greatest thing to ever air. Fantasy Haven says, give us Blood and Fire. Do not give us Blood and Fire. If you give us Blood and Fire, I will throw myself into the sea. I do not want Blood and Fire. And that is also coming from someone, this has been a lot rantier than I expected, and I apologize for that, but I've found that when I am talking to myself on these streams, it gets ranty. I don't know. I love Fire and Blood. I am probably Fire and Blood's biggest fan as a massive history nerd and history teacher in real life. I love that it's an in-universe history book with these inaccuracies and these differences in interpretation, because that is such a cool kind of literary device that doesn't really often get used. But it's just not, it's not that good. It's just not like a book. It's a history book. It's not a book. And I love Martin's writing when he's like writing and not being like a history book author. And he hasn't really authored anything that is like writing since A Dance with Dragons in 2011. Thank you for the super chat from Pioneer 10. A Reigns of Castamere mini-series would be cool. That could be especially cool as like a follow-up to a War of the Ninepenny Kings. Honestly, that could be an interesting idea to have not necessarily a War of the Ninepenny Kings show, That would be really cool, actually. That would be a way to have it all. What if we had an Aerys the Second? What if we had the Mad King as a show? Like, we start out with a season on the War of the Nine Penny Kings. Then we move on to Aerys' early reign, things like the Reigns of Castamere, and then end that with the Defiance of Duskendale. Then with the lead up to the rebellion, we could cover Harrenhal, we could cover the deaths of the Starks, we could cover the beginning of those wheels turning. And then we could end up getting into the rebellion itself in, like, maybe the last season leading up to Aerys' death. I think that's an excellent, not to toot my own horn, but HBO, please let me cook here. It's a great idea. Yeah, that could be a really cool way to do things. So that way you cover a lot of interesting ground. You're not jumping right into the rebellion, which could be jarring, especially people who are less familiar or wouldn't remember it. But yeah, let's have a season of Jaehaerys ordering construction of roads. No, I think it would be interesting. Aerys II's reign is a pretty cool point in history. And also, I will defend Martin's original idea, which is, the first episode of House of the Dragon was supposed to be the heir and the spare about Jaehaerys' two sons, Aemon and Balon, during peacetime, which would be great. I think it'd be just a great episode. I do think it'd be cool. I just like both of those characters and would have loved to see them adapted. But overall, I do think it was a stronger start to not start that far back. Let's have a Dance of the Dragon show, except no one's really mad at each other. That's a great idea, James Ryan. The more I think about House of the Dragon, the more I think the core of its issues boil down to Rhaenyra and Aegon, that conflict being nothing. Because I think, I don't know, having no scenes between the two figureheads of this massive Targaryen war who have both crowned themselves the monarch is just insane. The only time that these characters are in a room together in, the season are either in Lord of the Tides, where they're in, large crowds or tables and don't talk to each other, or the only time I think Rhaenyra talks to Aegon is in the cart on the way to his second birthday in episode 3. Yeah, I don't know. I think that was an area where they dropped the ball very early, and they really do not have any chance to make up for that, given that the next time those two characters interact has to go a certain way that I am not going to spoil. I don't know. Fantasy Haven says, Martin be like, the first episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms will be about the Century of Blood to give the viewers context. I don't know. If I can be completely honest and a little bit of a fake of Song of Ice and Fire fan here for a second, Century of Blood, all the ancient history, the Gem Emperors or whatever, the Steven Universe stuff, I don't know. I don't really deal with that. I don't think it has anything to do with anything. Anything that is only tangentially mentioned in exclusively the World of Ice and Fire world book, I do not take that seriously. I take it as kind of a secondary degree of canon. If it isn't contradicted, it's generally true, but also I don't think it's that important to the story itself. Yeah, I don't know, especially given it was written with help and it was written in this kind of rut period. I don't know. I think there may be hints as to ways things could go, but I think there's more foreshadowing in there in terms of Westeros' events than anything else. I do put Fire and Blood in a different tier, though, given the fact that, I don't know, it is directly penned by Martin, and it is very clear. I'm being called a blasphemer in chat, and I am A-okay with that, because it's not that big of a deal. The Great Empire of the Dawn is referenced in Dany's dragon dreams in A Game of Thrones, though. I'd have to reread those dreams. I think what's happening there is another video idea I've had and want to make in the near future. Maybe I will make that soon. Maybe that's next up after the video I just finished today. I think George Martin, he's an excellent writer. He's an even better dungeon master. Anybody who's been a dungeon master or game master for D&D or any TTRPG is able to create these hooks, these little open gaps and threads that you can just throw out and then maybe tie into something interesting later. It's like that observation I had a month or two ago where oh, maybe Makoro was at Daenerys' wedding because this massive red priest is disguised. And I don't think Martin had planned Makoro back in A Game of Thrones, but I think he created this thread that he could maybe follow up on later and allow to circle back. I think that what Martin maybe did in those early dreams in A Game of Thrones, which were some of the earliest parts of A Game of Thrones written, were just like kind of leaving things open to build upon later rather than directly referencing things that would come to exist in a world book that he partially wrote 2 decades later. Was it 2 or 3 decades later? 2. I can do math, I promise. But yeah, no, I think it's interesting, the wider context. I'm trying my absolute best not to make drinking water noises into the mic when I do it, and I hope I'm doing an okay job. But yeah, overall, I don't know. I hope they're not reshooting anything. I can't imagine what they would need CGI for. I think they will probably end up using a dragon of some description for that, like, flashback of Sir Arlen meeting the first dragon. But beyond that, there better not be anything. What if we did a Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but everyone rode dragons instead of horses? I think that'd be great. Yeah, no. Fantasy Evans says, since when do you have 67,000 subs? I think that was a few days ago I hit that. It was just before the dance video came out. So yeah, it was last weekend I hit that. I'm so worthy of hydration. Thank you. I feel so seen. Thank you, guys. Yeah, no, Amethyst Empress, Bloodstone Emperor, cool. That's pretty neat, man. I don't know. I don't super buy into that. I buy into the text of the main series more than most other things. And that's it. Lately I've been thinking a lot about the Winds of Winter sample chapters and how canon I consider those. Because, like, we kind of have to consider those canon. Like, they're what we have of the Winds of Winter so far, and we know they're the direction that Martin is taking. But I don't know, because I think some of those sample chapters are 500% getting rewritten for the final version. If I had to guess, most of them already have been rewritten at least a time or two by this point, because most of them are over a decade old. I was actually looking into this a few months ago, but as of May of next year, the most recently released sample chapter will be a decade old. Face reveal at 100K. My face was revealed before I had any subscribers. If you sort by oldest, all of my old videos are me talking about D&D in front of my camera. But yeah, no, I think it's... What was I talking about? I completely lost the plot. That's a great question. Wow. I just completely lost it. I was talking about D&D or something. Martin being a good dungeon master. Yeah. Lazy Leo and the Sphinx being D&D characters. Completely accurate. I have never lost my train of thought like this, I think, ever in a video or a stream. Wow. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Fire and Blood is different because it is so concretely... It is Martin writing and only Martin writing. I was talking about the Winds sample chapters. Thank you. Oh my god. I'm dumb. I think someone saying the Arion sample chapters should be combined. I'm going to be honest. I think if we're combining sample chapters for the Winds of Winter, I would first combine the Tyrion sample chapters. That's nothing, and everything that happens in them is already happening in A Dance with Dragons. We do not need that. I think you could cut Tyrion 1 and completely be fine. Then I would combine the Barristan sample chapters. They are also just not great and not that necessary, given that it is kind of battle preparations and then going into battle. That could be a single chapter. Also, someone in the chat clearly points out, be sure to like the stream and subscribe if you're enjoying. I forgot to do that. I am tired. I did just finish a final earlier today or yesterday. I don't remember when that was. I finished writing about a recent Supreme Court decision. I had to write my own version of the opinion. It was very fun. It was about, like, whether military reservists should be entitled to differential pay based on the statutory language in one instance. But regardless of that, I will continue on Wind sample chapters. I actually have really come around on the Arion sample chapters. I really enjoy them, and I think they do a great job of displaying the ways in which your character has grown. I think if I had to not combine sample chapters from Winds for the characters that have more than one, I would keep Arion's chapters. I would keep Arion's chapters as they are because I quite like them. What was my opinion? My opinion was that based on the statutory language, it should have been allowed, given the fact that the statute said, I think it was like, it listed a bunch of, it was in a definition section, and it listed a bunch of statutes that could be activated to provide differential pay between a reservist's civilian salary and their military wages. And the statute's last clause said, or if they are serving during a war or national emergency issued by the executive or legislative. And in this instance, there is no further connection other than just temporal. And one side was trying to argue, oh, you need a substantial connection to that instance of service, to that national emergency. It was, in my opinion, a reach. But regardless of that, back to Ice and Fire. Sorry to talk about law. I think the Forsaken chapter is probably going to be locked in as is. This might be a hot take, but I really don't particularly care for the Mercy sample chapter. It just feels kind of weird to me, and it doesn't feel at all like where we left Arya in A Dance with Dragons. It is this 5-year gap chapter that has been kind of repurposed and Frankensteined into the current series, but I don't know if it's necessarily been Frankensteined enough in its current state. I think that maybe it could use a little bit more work. What's your favorite Winds of Winter sample other than the Forsaken? That's a great question. Victorian is only half a chapter, but it's a good half a chapter. I really like Arion too, and that's not just because we see Halden Halfmaester. What else do we have? Oh, it's Theon. The answer is Theon because I forgot that Theon has a sample chapter. Yeah, Theon's chapter is awesome. I really enjoy it because I think it's the closest since Crescent that we've had to just a Stannis viewpoint, because Stannis and Theon effectively being locked in this tower in the Night Lamp is just this way of almost being in Stannis's head. I actually have an old video ranking the Winds sample chapters. I don't know how much I agree with my old ranking. I'd have to go back and watch. I think I'd probably bump Arion up from what I recall. But yeah, I'm not huge on Mercy. Theon is great. Arion's I quite like. I think the Arion chapters are quite underrated. Both the samples and in the text itself. The Princess in the Tower, not to spoil my feast ranking, I think the Princess in the Tower might be a top 5 chapter for me. But yeah. The thing with the Theon sample chapter, more than anything else, I can't read it without hearing Preston's Stannis voice whenever Stannis speaks, because I've listened to the Prepping for Winter series so much, because they are just a great line-by-line analysis. So that just, anytime I read Theon's chapter, that's just constantly there. Yeah, no. Fantasy Haven says, in another universe, we had the 5-year time skip, and Martin forgot to age a major character up. That could be it. That could be funny as well. Honestly, probably might, given certain things not being remembered in the series. I do always like the, idea that, who is it? Edric Dane was supposed to be like the Darkstar equivalent, but didn't get aged up in the gap. And like the sailor's wife in Bravos, the theory that like, her daughter is a daughter of Garyon Lannister, who would be legitimate because they got married, but the 5-year gap messed up the timeline because she's exactly 5 years too young. I love that theory. I think it's in an old Alt Shift X video. But yeah, no, I think that's an interesting idea. I always wonder what it would have been like if we got the 5-year gap. I don't know. I go back and forth on whether or not I think the series would be done if we got the 5-year gap. I tend to think no. Because, like, I don't know, all the issues that he had with Tyrion, with Daenerys, with Jon seem like they would still be there. And I don't think that would be resolved, and those were the main reason as to what was delaying A Dance with Dragons. I'm not as opposed to the Eris Hokart chapter as many other people are, which I think people will be surprised about. Because I think he's an unnecessary viewpoint, obviously, as the series currently exists, but it is a very well-written chapter. I think it's a great instance of the human heart being in conflict with itself, which Martin loves. We got to do that 5-year time skip live stream, Mr. Quinn. We do, Mr. Haven, though I'm not entirely sure what we would do. Just, like, talk about it? That would be fun. Personally, I think Ares Oakard is still alive. Uh, no. I always love the description of his death. The When he gets decapitated by Areo Hota, one of the silent butchers of Westeros, and his head flies into the river, which is called the Green Blood. What is it? Like Arion thinks like the green blood swallowed the red with a soft splash, and that phrasing has just always stuck with me. I love it. Um, doesn't Ares die in A Feast for Crows? Yes, he does, very publicly. Unless you believe in the Ares swap. Yeah, no. I've seen a lot of discussion of Quentin is alive recently, which is interesting. I don't know why people are suddenly going back to that theory, but my opinion on it, I don't think he's alive. But I think that that there is a trapdoor that Martin has written himself, and I think that trapdoor being present does signal that whoever he regrets killing was probably dead in A Feast for Crows rather than A Dance with Dragons. Because I think that leaving these gaps in Quentin's story where maybe he could have like 1% survived is him writing himself an out just in case he needs Quentin to survive, which I don't think he does. I think Quentin's story is perfect as it exists, and I do not see a future for him in Winds. Let's see. Quentin is Dario. Quentin wishes. I'm interested to see what Dario's role in Winds is going to be, because he is going to be. He's a hostage right now of the Yunkai. So we'll see if he ends up being killed by them. I think there's a lot of hostage killing in the near future of Meereen for a number of reasons, mostly done by the Shave Pate. Who is also going to get executed by Daenerys literally as soon as she arrives back into Meereen on Drogon. So we'll see how that ends up going. Yeah. But yeah, Duncan Egg. How about it? What do you guys think? This is quite the news. I don't know. This was not what I was expecting from this panel. Everybody was going in and like hyping up. Oh, there's gonna be a trailer. There's gonna be a trailer. Get hype. Get hype. And that's what I was ready to stream today. But I don't know. This announcement is not a trailer. I think that there being a trailer does indicate that we might get one in the near future. But who knows, honestly. Quentin is Quaithe. That would explain the mask. He's burned from dragonfire. He doesn't want his face to be seen. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, no. The answer is yes, but yeah, I think that overall, the Shave Pate could be a player in the future, but I do think he is 100% getting executed in the near future. I think, honestly, Meereen is not going to have many people from Daenerys' camp who survive overall, given the fact that there is this massive chaos going on right now. But, yeah. Overall, we'll see. Shave Pate probably dead. Barristan mega dead. Grain Grace, I could also see getting executed by Daenerys, especially if she's involved with the Harpy. His daughter, if I had to guess, is also going to get executed, probably by the Shave Pate. We might get GTA 6 before Duncan Egg. God, I hope not. I do think the most likely reason for this kind of shuffling of schedule is HBO weirdness, scheduling stuff, like wanting to fit stuff into their release calendar. And I think that given the fact that the show is like near done and Martin has seen 4 finished episodes, I do think that it is gonna be fairly soon. I wish there was a cool Battle of Fire video out there. Yeah, that'd be neat, but I don't know of any. That'd be really cool if only someone would make that. Do you think the seed Martin planted in Clash of Kings with the Sown Snake escaping into the Skirling Pass will ever turn into anything? It could. There are a lot of seeds that Martin has planted that I think would get followed up on if this was a 10-book series. But seeing that he's still trying to finish it in only 7, I do think that it's maybe less likely. But overall, it could happen. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on at the wall right now. I'm honestly still not fully sold on how much they aged up Dunk. Yeah, that is another factor, because Dunk in the book is like 18. He's a kid. But this actor is a bit older. I don't know. I'm not opposed to the idea. I think he still can pass off as like a wide-eyed guy who's kind of trying to make his way through the world. The first picture of the, hold on. This is a casting Dunk. Yeah, this first image of Dunk that was revealed, he has such like baby deer eyes here that like I can see that. That is an innocent man. He is just trying to make his way in the world. Like he is a little bit older, but there's like a core of, I don't know. He has kind eyes, and I think that's the most important thing for Dunk, other than being very tall. And I think that works. Um, yeah, I don't think it rises to the level of ruining it for me, but it is definitely something that is less than ideal about this adaptation, I'd say. But I also think Egg is 110% excellent. But I also think that Dunk being a bit older will be a bit better as the series continues, because obviously Egg's actor is going to age. He's a child. But Dunk maybe starting a little older and like having younger maybe makeup or something could help him kind of age and grow and mature as this goes on. Fantasy Haven says it's the most stereotypical looking Irish rugby player you can imagine. I'll take your word for it. I don't know much about rugby, but I don't know. Him being a rugby player also fits. He definitely has like the physique of Duncan the Tall, which is great. And this picture of Egg is adorable. But yeah, I think that is going to do it for the stream for the day. Because I am very tired because I took a final yesterday. I've been talking a lot. I will have a new video for you out on either Friday or Saturday. Probably Friday because it's done. And it's talking about Martin's least favorite houses, a follow-up to my video on his favorite houses from a few weeks ago. Like I said, just finished it. A little longer than that one, though he hasn't actually talked about least favorite houses. It's right here. You can see all of it right here in its wonderful little timeline. But I will show that off to my patrons probably tonight, and then I will post it for all to see. If you enjoyed this stream, thank you for watching. I would appreciate any likes on the stream, or if you would subscribe to the channel. I will be keeping you up to date with any Dunk and Egg news in the future, as well as more A Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones stuff. And yeah, I look forward to sharing many more videos with you in the very near future. I also have a Patreon, which I always forget to mention because I always forget that it exists, but I do post videos on there early, so if you're interested in that or supporting me, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you all again for watching. I will see you all soon, hopefully with more Dunk and Egg news, maybe with a trailer if that comes out soon, but yeah, excellent. Goodbye, everybody. If I could actually end the stream, that would be great. I think I found the button. Goodbye, everyone. Oh, there's another button. Ah!